It's the Health in the Real World podcast. It's time to start the show with Chris Janke as your host. Here to give you everything that you need when it comes to fitness strategies. We keep it simple and easy. It's your roadmap to get healthy. You don't need equipment and you don't need a gym. Just the right strategies to get you fit and trim.
The Health in the Real World podcast is sponsored by...
You ever notice that life just seems to go by so fast, and before you know it, a new calendar year starts? We don't even seem to be any closer to our goals. And even worse, it seems like every time we focus on one goal, others slip through our fingers. This is a journal I made that is extremely simple to use, creating a game worth winning. It's a paper journal that you write in, old school style, yes, just like the 20th century, creating a game worth winning, a journal to design and implement your goals with money, health, organization, and time management, available at Amazon. Hello and welcome to Health in the Real World. I'm Chris Janke, joined today by Dr. Michael Newman. Dr. Newman is a plastic surgeon. We're going to talk today about some very specific things that are happening in the world, our modern world, with cell phones and how cell phones are altering our skin makeup. So Dr. Newman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So give us a quick background as far as who you are, how you got into this specific area of medicine, and then we'll dive from there.
Yeah, I'm a board certified plastic surgeon. I'm based in Los Angeles, got 2 offices, a full medical spa and surgery center. We do a bunch of surgery, cosmetic surgery, facial, body surgery, et cetera. And got into plastic surgery just because I thought it was so magical and just really affects the way that we all feel and look and our skin health and our body health.
So is do you predominantly do skin, or is it kind of plastic surgery of all kinds? Or
yeah, plastic surgery, all kinds. So a lot of breast augmentation, breast lift surgery, mommy makeover type stuff, facelifts, nose jobs. But our skin is the biggest organ of our body, and so we want to take care of that and protect it. Certainly there's some overlap with the dermatology world as well. But with plastic surgery, we're doing facelifts, we're lifting the skin, we're tightening the skin, and that's a huge part of the way we look. Yeah,
absolutely. So what have you found with cell phones specifically, and what's your process, like your thought process of figuring out like, oh wow, this woman, this is definitely from a cell phone? Like, how do you figure that out first?
Yeah, well, what we've realized now is, when we see people in person, you look different than a photograph of that person, because that can be affected by lighting and lenses. And you can get different lenses on a camera that create distortion to get a wider image, which we know we've done that for landscape views and bigger scenery. But what happens is now with technology, we all use our phones and computers, and especially now with COVID, everybody is online looking at each other and looking at ourselves, because you get an image of yourself during a video conference or a selfie photo. And I've had patients come in and say, gosh, I look so funny. One side of my face looks different than the other. I see movement that's different than the other. One of my breasts looks different than the other. And, when I look at them, and say, well, actually, things don't look as bad as they look in that picture that you're showing me. And so there have been studies now that have taken pictures of people, regular standard camera photos versus, let's say a cell phone photo. And you can see the distortion in one versus the other. And the cell phones have a curved lens, which makes things in the center seem bigger, oftentimes the nose, and things on the sides seem smaller. And so that creates, some weird shapes, and it also can exaggerate asymmetry that you might have in our body or face.
That's interesting. How do you address something like that when somebody wants to say look better on the camera, but you're looking at them in real life and you're like, yeah, but everything looks totally fine? Is that even something that we can address?
Yeah, well, I think, what they're seeing is real in the camera, at least. And so if people just want to look better on camera, you can try and address those things by, making some adjustments to correct asymmetry. But what I find is people are worried that that's what they look like all the time. And, let's say if they're on camera, filming a movie, well, they're going to look just like they do in real life because they're with a, a standard camera at a farther distance. But what they get paranoid about is they see that cell phone image of themselves and they get worried that that's the reality of what everybody else is seeing of them, in professional films or in person. And that's frustrating. And then people come in and they're, anxious about it. They're stressed out. And I reassure them and say, hey, this is not the way you look to everybody. It's not the way you look in the real world. So
right.
don't stress.
But speaking of cell phones, so let's go to this one. I think this is huge, because most of us are on our cell phones so often. And even if we're not like actively looking at it, it's somewhere on our person, right? It's either in our pocket or in our purse. Cell phones causing skin damage, skin abnormalities. What's going on with this? And to kind of give a big picture, and then we'll whittle it down and give people some practical tips.
Yeah, well, I think truthfully, there's really no good scientific data that says that cell phones cause any kind of, damage to our brains or our skin. We're bombarded by wavelengths through, radio waves and all kinds of waves all the time. And so, I think there is some magnetic energy with phones that is real, but I think we haven't really seen any scientific data that shows damage to skin or damage to organs from cell phones.
Okay, that's good to know. I maybe misunderstood. That's a good thing. So you were talking more about cell phones distorting the image of somebody as opposed to like causing damage of the skin.
Exactly. So it's all about, appearance and what you see versus reality. And so the lens is curved. And so when you see an image that came through a cell phone, then you're not really seeing a real picture of what you really look like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we all live in this digital world, right? And like right now I can reach out and I'm, arm length from the camera that I'm using right now. And that for sure would cause some distortions, right?
Right. So I think, simple point that people can take home is the further you are away from the lens, the more real your image is. So being further is better.
Got it. So even if you're further away, but zoomed in, maybe the camera's zoomed in, but as long as you're further away, that's the key, right? What do you see like on a typical day? Like, what does your schedule look like? One of my good friends is a doctor, and I just asked him this the other day. I said, are you like working 20 hours a day? Like, what does your particular schedule look like?
Yeah, I'm usually kind of a 12-hour day type person, come in at 7, go home 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Typically doing surgery a couple days a week, usually 3 days a week. And those surgeries might vary, a lot of liposuction, mommy makeover, facelift, nose job type stuff. We're doing a lot of fat transfer these days. We'll take fat from some part of the body, let's say around the waist, and inject that into the either breast, face, or butt to add more volume and contour. And then a couple days in the office seeing, new consults and follow-ups.
What do you think? Like, I'm always fascinated by this, like the whole chicken and the egg analogy, right? Like if somebody, really starts, with displaying good habits and things like that, we can lose weight, we can get healthier, right? But I know it also goes the other direction too, right? Have you seen anything like, you do liposuction on somebody, a tummy tuck, breast augmentation, whatever it is, or face? Have you seen that affect them and their habits, their healthy habits? Have you seen them kind of feel differently about themselves? Because I know it works from the inside out. I've also seen it work from the outside in. What have you seen in that regard?
Yeah, and I've seen both of those scenarios too. It's unfortunate. Sometimes a lot of patients come in and they say, I just can't lose this weight. I want liposuction everywhere. Just take it all off. And, that's a tough conversation to have because I tell them, look, liposuction is not the answer. It's diet, it's lifestyle, it's exercise. Plastic surgery can't fix that. But a lot of times when I tell them, look, if you can lose whatever, 10, 15, 20 pounds, and then come back in and we can reassess what's left, then we can really target the areas that are left over and really get you a great result. And sometimes just having that carrot in front of them, knowing that there's a reward, really gets them going. And so they'll come in, 20 pounds later, and then, we'll hit a home run.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That's awesome. I think that, it makes them realize that, hey, I have a little work to do, and then I'm going to get some help, right? I'm going to get the final touches. I have a story about this woman who once came into my gym, and she was lean, and she was a little bit older. I think she was probably in her maybe late 50s, 60s. But she was lean. But the way she was talking, it was interesting. There was something that wasn't like matching up with the way that she was speaking and the way that she looked. And I couldn't pinpoint it. It was just like a feeling I had, I guess. And then toward the end of the conversation, she mentioned that she had just had liposuction and she lost 100 pounds.
Wow.
And I was thinking, it was interesting because I almost felt like she hadn't really embodied that lean person yet, right? She was still sort of talking like somebody who was very overweight. And I told her that. I said, look, this is great that you did that. You know, you're healthier, you have less, pounding on the knees and everything that goes with that. Let's start to work on your mindset, and let's start to get you thinking like somebody who is able to actively keep this weight off. And so I thought that was interesting. And then she really got it. She's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And she started to slowly creep in that direction. But again, in that case, it was like, with her, it was like from the outside in, like getting that liposuction was a really effective way to jumpstart her into that mindset. And I thought that, and long-term, she's kept it off too. This is like 12 years later.
Yeah. So that's an incredible story. And that's, the ideal, if there's some way to kind of treat some area that people are very self-conscious about, then it makes them feel better and feel more motivated to, stick to their dietary habits. I mean, I have a story too, a patient who was, very overweight and kind of wanted to be thinner overall. And I said, well, we can't really do everything, but we can focus on a couple spots. And so we did. And it was around her stomach and her back. And she ended up losing, 50 pounds after that on her own. But like you said, that she just wanted somebody to help get her motivated. And once she started to feel good about those areas that were problem areas, she just really lit it up on her own.
That's awesome. Yeah, she just needed that kickstart, and then boom, she was able to kind of finish the job. That's cool.
Other category of people that I think common, we probably overlap on a lot is people that have had kids, moms, because their abdominal muscles sometimes will separate, and despite the fact that they might not be overweight, people will see them at the grocery store and ask them when they're due, and ask them if they're pregnant, and they get obviously hurt by that because they're like, I'm not pregnant, I'm actually fit, and I had my kid, a year ago, and it's so frustrating for them because they're trying everything they can. They're going to the gym, doing exercises. A lot of times we'll send them to physical therapy, but sometimes we have to do surgery to tighten those muscles back together. And after that, boy, they keep it off. They really hold onto it.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate too with those women. It's kind of luck of the draw. Like, going into their first pregnancy, like they have no idea what post-pregnancy is going to be like, right? I mean,
it's tough, because you never know, are those muscles going to come back naturally or not? I've had some patients, it's, crazy. You look at them and you can't tell if they've ever had a child. They'll have no stretch marks, their muscles will be just, totally solid. And then some people that, it just never comes back together. And certainly there's some things I think, with your involvement, getting some good, exercise routines, physical therapy, to try and recover on their own, where some support, all those things help, but it's totally unpredictable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good to know that there is an option if they're doing everything right, diet, exercise, and it's still not, snapping back to the pre-pregnancy body, then, they can come in and work with you. Dr. Newman, I like to finish with, we're going to go real big picture, talk about just more life in general. And I like to give my guests a chance to sort of like motivate. Let's say we put you in front of a graduating class at a university or maybe in a corporation, and you're the motivational speaker. So you're talking more like life lessons, what you've learned along the way, going through medical school, dealing with patients and clients. What would you tell that graduating class how they can get the most out of their lives?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, we can achieve whatever we want, which is amazing. I see that in myself. I see that in my colleagues. I think if you have goals out there, whether it's, becoming a plastic surgeon or becoming super fit or starting your own company, there is no doubt you can do it. If there's a will, there's a way. And I think along the way, whatever you decide to do, you need to take care of yourself. Don't let yourself go. And so that includes, staying in shape, some kind of exercise, and some dietary habits. And I think the problem that a lot of us slip into is, we feel like if we're able to eat a balanced diet in our 20s, we think we can just eat the same way the rest of our lives and stay with the same body. But the reality is our metabolic needs go down every year. And so you have to eat less and less every year in order to stay the same weight. So you got to be conscious about that, take care of yourself, do some exercise. I think exercise gives us a lot of mental health too. It's a good opportunity to meditate and, keeps us in shape.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to? Do you offer a consultation? How do they start?
Yeah, so they can come in for a consultation and we can take a look and figure out what the best options are for them and figure out their goals and how to get there. And so the best way to reach out to me is through Instagram at Dr. Newman Plastic Surgery, or a couple websites out there, drnewmanbeverlyhills.com or plasticsurgerysource.com.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you what part of LA you're in, but Beverly Hills?
Yeah, 2 offices, one in Beverly Hills and one in Torrance.
Oh, perfect.
Los Angeles area.
Oh, nice. I went to college down in LA. I went to LMU and I lived in Torrance right after I graduated. So
yes, you know that area well. I mean, LMU is such a great place, right next to the water, and right, and good access to everything nice in LA. So
easy to get in and out, right by LAX.
That's right.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, awesome. Again, we're joined here today, Dr. Michael Newman. I'm Chris Janke of Health in the Real World. Dr. Newman, thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you. My pleasure. Great to speak. Looking forward to next time.
Thanks for listening to the Health in the Real World show. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below. Visit mycorebalance.com to learn more.